أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحابه ومن اهتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. ربي لا تؤاخذني مما يقولون واغفر لي ما لا يعلمون واجعلني خيرا مما يظنون. أما بعد. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome to the house of dua and welcome to the month of Muharram. The month of Muharram in the year 1443 after the hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, we are now into the 1443rd year of the hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. How time flies. Today, inshallah, we are coming to you to remind you and remind ourselves of one of the things that we need to know in life. We actually need to make sure that we get ready to avoid what is known as the big regret. Yes, I mean the big regret. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, have you ever done anything in which at the end of the day you wish you didn't do it? Very often, we regret our actions or our speeches, the words that come out of our mouth. Very often also we regret our inaction, our failure to do certain things which we ought to have done by virtue of our positions. Life is a choice-making process. Every day of our lives we make decisions, or we take certain actions, or we fail to take certain actions. At the end of our decision or inaction, we regret. Sometimes we pass a road and we regret having passed that road. Take the case of a child who goes to school to receive education. The person gets to the school, fails to go to the class, fails to turn in some assignments, and when the exam comes, there's failure. No one wants to fail. Followed by failure is regret. The child begins to regret, if I knew, I would have taken my studies seriously. There are countless moments in our lives in which we make decisions or take certain actions or go on certain paths, and we come out at the end of the day, we are full of regret. If I knew, I shouldn't have done this. If I knew, I shouldn't have done that. Or if I knew, I should have done this, or I should have done that. Just pause for a moment and think about it. Find out that thing in your life which you did, and at the end of it, you were very regretful. You wish you didn't do it. But you have already done it. How do you recover from it? How do you amend what you have done? This is the challenge in life. There are certain statements we make, and when we see the consequences of those statements, or we take certain actions and we see the consequences of those actions, we regret why we did so. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, whenever we make mistakes or do certain things that we regret, what do? Luckily, in the life we live, there's opportunity for a do-over. For you to either repeat what you have done or do it differently, so that at the end of the day, you will come out with good results. It's possible for us to make mistakes now and correct those mistakes. It's possible for us to make statements, and in another instance, we make other statements that will help us correct our previous statements. It's possible for us now, for students who are in school, to fail an exam or fail to move to the next class, and is given opportunity to repeat. That's a do-over. We have that opportunity in the life we live. But when it comes to the Akhirah, When it comes to meeting our Lord, there's no opportunity for us to do over. There's no opportunity for us to come back to this life. And that raises the fundamental question that we want to ask today. What preparation are you making now to avoid the big regrets? Regret that will come up and you have no opportunity for a do-over. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to allow us find ourselves in such a situation, but it will happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran revealed some verses reminding us of a situation where some people will regret on the day of accountability. Do you want to find yourself in that situation? Of course, no. In Surah Al-Furqan, which is chapter 25 of the Holy Quran, verses 27 to 29, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bada'uzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa yawma ya'adu zalimu ala yadihi. Yaqulu ya laitani takastu ma'a rasuli sabila. Ya waylata laitani lam yattakhizu fulana khalila. Laqad adallani an zikri ba'da iz ja'ani. Laqad adallani an zikri ba'da iz ja'ani. Wa kana shaytanu lil insani khazula. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, a day is coming. On the day of accountability, there is a man who will bite his finger. Ya laitani, oh my soul, had I known, with great regret, he would declare, if I had known, I would have followed the path of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Ya waylata laitani, oh my soul, destruction upon me, for following the other way, the wrong way, the path of my friend who has misled me. He misled me after the reminder had come to me known as Dhikr, the Quran al-Karim. I wish I had followed the Quran al-Karim. And indeed, the shaitan is an enemy that deserts you as soon as you obey him. He deserts you and leaves you in a state of confusion. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, in Surah Al-Mulk, which is chapter 67 of the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, on the day of accountability, there are some people who will say, لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ مَا كُنَّا فِي أَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. There are some people who will regret on that day and say, if we had known, we would have listened. We would have listened to the message from the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam as contained in the Quran. And in addition to that, we wish we have sufficient understanding of the consequences of our refusal to follow the Quran. There are people on that day who will say, if we had known, we would have done what we are told to do. This is why we are reminding you, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, today we have opportunity to do over our mistakes, to correct ourselves, to amend our way. And that's why the Quran has been sent down through Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam to remind us of that, which is the right way to go, and to save us from going the wrong direction. In this book, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna hadinahu sabila imma shakira wa imma kafura. We have guided man to the way. We have given him opportunity to choose either to go to the right way to show gratitude or to go to the wrong way by showing ingratitude. There are only two choices in life, my dear brothers and sisters, to do or not to do, to remain good or to remain bad, to follow the truth or to follow the falsehood, to be a believer or to be a non-believer. These are the options that are available. As I said, every now and then we engage ourselves in decision making, trying to make a choice between doing what is right and what is wrong. To enable you make that decision, that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Quran, which is known as Al-Furqan, the distinction between what is right and what is wrong. That's the only way for you to avoid regret in any action that you make if you follow the commandments of the Quran. If you realize that there is a straight way and there is a wrong way. We are constantly making our choices every day. I'm sure you know that inside your heart, whenever you want to do something, there are two voices. One that says, go ahead and do it, and the other one that says, do not do it. If it's a good thing, there's a part of your mind that says, go ahead and do it. And there's a part of your heart that says, don't do it. Similarly, when you are about to do that which is wrong, there's a part of your mind that says, go ahead and do it. Nothing will go wrong. There's another part of your mind or heart that says, do not go ahead and do it. There will be consequences. So you are left in a dilemma. What am I going to do? How do you come out of that situation? That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us in Surah Ash-Shams that this soul has potential to incline towards doing what is good or doing what is bad, depending on what potentiality that is dominant in you. That's what leads you into doing what is right or doing what is wrong. If your soul is dominated by fear of God, by taqwa, then of course you are always inclined to doing what is right. But if it is dominated by fujur, or that which is sinful, then of course you are always inclined to doing what is bad. So when these two aspects are competing in your heart, the only judge that will judge between them inside your heart to lead you to doing what is right is whether or not you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why Allah says, وَالنَّفْسِ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Allah says, I swear by the soul that is consists of the tendency to do what is right, the tendency to do what is wrong. We ask Allah to increase our potential to do what is right all the time. And dear brothers in Islam, today we are reminding ourselves of the big regret. There are people who will find themselves in the big regret on the day of accountability. The opportunity is here for us now to do that which will save us from that big regret. Because while in the life we live, we do certain things for which we are held accountable, and we can also find opportunity to correct our way. But when we meet Allah on the day of accountability, we are not likely going to get that privilege of doing over, of coming back to life to amend our ways. That's why it's important for us to avoid finding ourselves in that situation. In Surah Al-An'am, which is chapter 6 of the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed to us what I call the vices of life. Things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hate for us to do. Every act of our behavior in the life we live fall into these 10 categories, 10 major categories of the vices of life, which if we stay away from, we definitely will be among those who escape the big regret on the day of accountability. But on the other hand, if you fail to follow the commandment of Allah, or fail to be guided in the life we live now, then you can count yourself as being somebody who cannot escape the big regret on the day of accountability. And dear brothers in Islam, Allah is so generous in the way He has created us. That is why He has sent reminders to us. Reminders that will enable us know ahead of time what awaits us. In the life we live today, why many of us make some regrets in our actions is, even when we are thinking about these actions or inactions, sometimes we are lucky we get a word of advice from those who are close to us or those who are not too close to us. Or we get some warnings from the policies of government. The failure for us to adhere to such warnings is what sometimes leads us to making mistakes in the life we live. And we come into regret. Again, not so bad in the life we live because we have opportunity to do over. By the same token, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down the Quran to us as a reminder. If we read it and adhere to the commandment of the Quran, of course, we'll be able to avoid the big regret on the day of accountability. But if not, just as we have friends speaking to us every day, or brothers or sisters, reminding us of doing certain things or not doing certain things. If we were to listen to such voices, of course, there would be some goodness. But sometimes we don't. And that also applies to the Quran. We read the Quran, we don't follow the commandments in it. And that's why we cannot avoid the big regret on the day of accountability. Astaghfirullah. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, in Surah Al-An'am, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declared, Ba'da auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qul ta'alaw atlu ma harama rabbukum alaykum alla tushriku bihi shay'an wa bil walidayni ihsana wa la taqtulu awladakum min imlaqakum nahnu narzuqukum wa iyyahum wa la taqrabul fawahisha ma zahara minha wa ma batana wa la taqtulu nafsa allati harama Allahu illa bil haqqi ذلكم وصاكم به لعلكم تعقلون ولا تقربوا مال اليتيم إلا بالتي هي أحسن حتى يبلغ أشده وأوفوا الكيل والميزان بالقسط لا نكلف نفسا إلا وسعها وإذا كنتم فاعدلوا ولو كان ذا قربى وبعهد الله أوفوا ذلكم وصاكم به لعلكم تذكرون وأن هذا صراطي مستقيما فاتبعوه ولا تتبعوا سبل فتفرق بكم عن سبيله ذلكم وصاكم به لعلكم تتقون. In these verses, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has listed what is considered to be the 10 vices of life. The 10 wrongdoing, major wrongdoings, the 10 evils that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to stay away from if we want to avoid the big regret on the day of accountability. He told the Prophet, cool, tell them, ta'ala, all of you should come. Atlu ma harama rabbukum alaykum. Come, let me tell you what Allah has prohibited for you in order to avoid the big regret on the day of accountability. Number 1, Allah to shiriku bihi shay'an. Do not associate any partnership with Allah. Do not worship anything beside Allah. Do not follow any example beside the example of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Do not be a disbeliever. Do not follow any message other than the message of the Holy Quran. And do not follow any Qibla other than the Qibla that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen for you. Do not follow any other path except the path that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mapped out for you in the Holy Quran. Number 2, honor your parents, don't dishonor your parents. Honor your parents, don't dishonor your parents. And number 3, do not kill your babies. Do not engage in abortion out of fear of sustenance for the children. Allah is the one who will provide you risk, and He is the one who will provide those children risk as well. That's number 4. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not follow the path of shame. That is the path of adultery or fornication. Do not go for any other opposite sex that is not legitimately for you by way of marriage. And do not kill a soul that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made sacred, except after due process. This is the ordainment from Allah. This is the commandment of Allah. Those are the first 5. The next one is do not get close to the wealth of an orphan. Do not get close to it, to abuse it, to consume it, and to usurp it from the orphan. The only condition under which you can touch the orphan's property is Liability here, Hassan, except you want to improve on it for him, you want to keep it safe for him. Until that orphan grows up. When you are in business, make sure you don't cheat. Measure for people fully. For example, and when you are about to speak, make sure you speak coherently, upholding that which is true, just, and fair. That is number 9. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, make sure that you keep the commandment of Allah. The covenant you have with Allah, keep it for him. These are ordainments from Allah. These are commandments of Allah. If you want to avoid the big regret on the day of accountability, these are the things you need to stay away from. And finally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is my straight path. To stay away from all these self-indulgences, these vices, this is my straight path. Do not follow any other way that will take you out of this straight path. Otherwise, you have the big regret on the day of accountability. This is the commandment of Allah. My dear brothers and sisters, Islam, from here we learn that these are the ordainment of Allah that constitute Surat al-Mustaqim. If you are a true believer, whoever follows this path will not have cause to regret on the day of accountability. But how often do we keep them? As I said, as a reminder not come to us, of course. From time to time, also in our daily activities, there are people who speak to us on certain issues. But we don't listen. Nor do we listen to the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What will happen, therefore? We will get an outcome that we don't desire. And if that happens, we will regret. In the life of this world, there is opportunity for do-over, but in the life of the Akhirah, there is no opportunity for do-over. That's why I'm reminding you and reminding myself today that we need to be very careful over what we do in the life of this world. We need to be very careful to adhere to the Quran. This is the only way by which you can always find yourself doing that which is right, that will not bring you regret. So if you ask me, therefore, how do we make a choice? What is it that we should take into consideration whenever we want to make a choice out of the contending forces, either in our heart or in front of us? Out of the contending desires that we are facing, how do we make a choice? We must find out, is this acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Does it follow the example of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam? These are the criteria for deciding whether to make a decision or not to make a decision. If you follow any other criteria, at the end of the day, you have yourself to blame, either in this world or in the Akhirah. Therefore, I have warned you, I warn myself, that we should be careful of the big regret that is coming. And that is the regret that some of us may face on the day of accountability. Therefore, let's try as much as possible to avoid having regret at all, because whenever you lose a very big chance and you find yourself in regret, not many people know how to bounce back out of their failure in order to succeed. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make life easy for us. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت الغفور الكريم. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.